Hearty welcome to Jnanarjane Empowering Excellence. Friends, today's Wednesday study circle. We have arranged a very interesting topic for this study circle, which is forensic audit. The demand for forensic audit is increasing day by day because various reasons, maybe some of not that pleasant reason, mainly because some of the frauds is keep on increasing. That is one of the reason the forensic audit is required for various agencies looking for that audit. However, it's a great opportunity for chartered accountants, people who are tech savvy. So it's a great opportunity. Considering that, we have arranged this today's study circle meet on forensic audit. To enlighten us on this topic, we have an eminent chartered accountant from Temple City, Udupi, Sri C.A.K. Ranganathachar. On behalf of Bangalore branch and on behalf of all the participants here, hearty welcome to C.A. Ranganathachar. Hearty welcome, Ranganath.
Thank you. Thank you.
Participants, you are the reason for this study circle meeting. Every week, your interest, your encouragement for us to organize this program made us to organize week after week. So hearty welcome to each one of you. Even in your busy schedule, you are keeping 2 hours for learning. That is a great news. As a professional, we need to update our knowledge on various topics. Today's forensic audit is an interesting one. I'm sure all of you enrich from this session. Hearty welcome to each one of you. Hearty welcome to branch secretary Divya.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Friends, please look into bangaloreici.org. So all our upcoming programs are recorded there. Please visit regularly bangaloreici.org and register for all our upcoming programs. With that note, once again, hearty welcome to each one of you. Over to Divya.
Thank you, Chairman. A very warm good evening to all the participants and speaker of today's program. To give a brief introduction of today's speaker, we have with the C.A.K. Ranganathachar with us. Hearty welcome to you once again, sir. To give a brief introduction, he did his BCom from Mahatma Gandhi Memorial College in the year 1990 and did his CA articleship from Prabhajit and Company under guidance of veteran CA Sri Gujjadi Prabhakar Nayak and Sri U.B. Ajit Kumar. Having completed his CA and CMA, he left India for UAE and served in various companies in UAE in various capacities ranging from chief accountant to finance manager to group intern auditor, having almost 25 plus years of varied industry experience before relocating back to India. Presently, he is more into investments and spends a considerable time in research and analysis the financials of companies, both for him personally and to his clients. An optimistic and perpetual long-term bull by nature. With this very brief introduction, I wholeheartedly welcome you, sir, for today's program.
Thank you. Oscar.
Over to you, sir.
Good evening to all of you. I would like to thank the President of Bangalore chapter of ICAI, Mr. B.T. Shetty, the Vice President, Mr. C.A. Srinivasa, and the Secretary, C.A. Divya, for inviting me to speak on my favorite topic, forensic audit. Actually, I can speak I can speak on a long this thing, but let me curtail my speech or the seminar to just around 90 to 100 minutes. So I would like to first thank Bangalore chapter, and I would like to thank the people who are there, who are participating in this. Thanks to all of you. Also, I would like to express my thanks to Mr. Suraj and Lata Raj, who are on the technical side, on the back side of this presentation. I would like to thank. By thanking, I would like to start my presentation. Forensic audit. What is a forensic audit? A forensic audit is an examination and evaluation of a firm or individual financial records to derive evidence that can be used in a court of law or legal proceedings. Forensic auditing is a specialization within the field of accounting, and the most large accounting firms have a forensic auditing department. So saying, let me give a brief introduction about the forensic audit. Forensic audit has got three main aspects. Number one, it has accounting. Number two, it has the auditing part. Number three, application of investigative techniques using logic and inferences. So these are the three main parts of a forensic audit. Forensic audit requires the expertise of accounting and auditing procedures, as well as expert knowledge about the legal framework of such an audit. So when we go with the flow of the presentation, it will be more and more clear. Forensic audit is not a familiar form of accounting, and many businesses have not heard about this type of accounting. Why? What is the reason? When we hear the word forensic, we think of criminal investigation. Criminal investigation means we have some vague pictures of the police conducting a forensic investigation with the help of sniffer dogs and the dog handler taking the dog to find some clues. It is not in that scenario, but it is quite similar. This type of auditing is about the investigation, application of financial and scientific knowledge to a business or legal problem. Generally, a forensic audit is conducted by forensic auditing firms when embezzlement or fraud is suspected. They also work with the government functioning parallel to organizations like CBI. When we talk about CBI, there are many other government organizations which are also into forensic audit. Means they also do the in-depth audit of an organization when there is a case of embezzlement or fraud. Namely, EOW, Enforcement Economic Offences Wing. Economic Offences Wing, you have it with the state government as well as the CBI. Then you have the Enforcement Directorate. They are very, very tough nut to crack. Then you have SEBI. SEBI also does this. SEBI. After that you have, now these days, in majority of the cases, all the cases are referred to an organization called as SFIO, Serious Finance Investigation Office. They are like, very, very sharp, and they are to the point. You can say they are like commandos. Then after that you have RBI. RBI, it's a big organization, Reserve Bank of India. Then after that, we have our own income tax authorities. They also help us in getting all such information. Then after that, you have GST authorities these days. And finally, you have DRI. What is DRI? DRI is basically Directorate of Revenue Intelligence, which comes under CBIC. CBIC means Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs. They do so many things, They are into outright smuggling. They are into looking into outright smuggling of contraband like firearms, gold, narcotics, fake Indian currencies, antiques, wildlife, and environmental products. Also, their main duty is to prevent proliferation of black money, trade-based money laundering, and commercial frauds. Commercial frauds, I will give you one practical example. Recently, not much time has passed or flown. Recently, what exactly happened was, in Calcutta, the Directorate of Revenue Intelligence caught hold of one consignment. And when they saw the consignment bill of lading is the most important document where the contents inside the container or whatever it is has to be clearly mentioned. What was mentioned in the bill of lading? In the bill of lading, it was shown that it was pertaining to some computer parts, USB memory cards, and some hard disk was inside the container. But eventually, when they opened up and when they saw, they were surprised to see a brand new consignment of iPhone 13, the latest mobile phone. Now, this is a very serious issue because the value as declared earlier for the small computer parts and all these things, it was very less, but actually the value of iPhone 3, it can go based on different configuration from 90,000 to maybe 130,000 or 140,000. So such things the DRI does. So these are the different organizations. I repeat, the organizations are enforcement, EOW of the police department. Then you have Enforcement Directorate, SEBI, SFIO, RBI, income tax authorities, GST authorities, and DRI. Next, like now, how is this known? Actually, even in frauds, there is something known as fraud triangle, which is basically perceived opportunity, rationalization, and perceived pressure. I will illustrate all this, but before let me explain what is a fraud triangle. It is basically the inherent qualities within a human being. What is that? You have weak internal control in the organization, ineffective monitoring of contracts or controls, assets susceptible to fraud. Then rationalization. I will pay it back. I deserve a pay rise. It is for a good purpose I am doing this. Then you have the financial pressure. What is a greed, addiction, poor credit rating or cash management, work pressure, dissatisfaction with the pay, and overlooked for promotion. Now let me give one practical example as to how this works out in the real scenario. Let us take in case of a bank. I am giving you two practical examples, two practical real examples. It is not something from imagination or imaginary situation. There are two players. One is one is an officer at the lower level, and one is the MD and CEO of one famous bank. First, let us take about what happened with the officer. Long back, in the year 1982, we were in Mangalore. My father was in a bank. He was working for Syndicate Bank. And you know, Syndicate Bank, he was working in the divisional office. And below the divisional office in the ground floor, you have Syndicate Bank main branch. Syndicate Bank presently is known as Canara Bank, but those days it was Syndicate Bank, and the main branch was located in Lighthouse Hill Road. There, in the year 1982, I was just 12 years at that time, and this was the first case of a serious fraud which took place in that branch. What was the fraud? Let me explain it very briefly. Let me not go into depth because it's a big fraud which happened that time. Let me explain in brief. What happened was, there was one particular officer in this particular branch who was a darling, or who was what you call as an apple of everybody's eyes, because he was working late in the night. If everybody used to leave the office at 5:30 p.m., he used to work till 8:30 p.m. or 9:30 p.m. And he developed so much trust among the staff that nobody believed nobody had a doubt about his integrity. So what happened? After some time, this was going on for some time. What happened? Once, one NRI customer from Dubai, actually in that entire belt, our Dakshina Kannada belt, Lot of us are working in Middle East. That is a natural affinity. People from Mangalore, people from Udupi, people, all these coastline people, they have natural tendency to go to Middle East and make a living and earn money. So what happened? One day, one Christian lady, see, we are talking about 1982. There was no net banking. Everything was offline. You remember those all the big ledgers where the customer's account was being written manually. Those were the days, 1982, I am telling you. So what happened? One day, one Christian lady, NRI customer from Dubai, she came and she gave the passbook at the counter to be filled. After the passbook was filled, she went on going through each line, and one particular line, she didn't fathom it. What was that? There was a debit entry of 4,000 rupees. 4,000 rupees, not now in the year 1982, which carried too much weight, during those days. This 4,000 rupees, according to her brain or thinking, she has not done any withdrawal from the branch, or she has not authorized others also to withdraw this money. So she went to the manager with a passbook, branch manager, that was a divisional level branch manager, that means scale 4 officer. So there she went and she showed the passbook to the manager and said, sir, this 4,000 rupees entry, I don't think I have made this entry. Can you please investigate this particular entry? So the manager said, definitely, why not? We will definitely do the investigation. So then what happened? He called the concerned officer. The concerned officer is the same person, the same hard-working guy. He said, sir, definitely we will find out the problem. What he will find the problem? He was the one who did this problem. So what he did, that was a Friday evening when this matter came up with the manager. Sir, give me 2 days time, I will find everything, the officer said to the manager. Manager believed, because he was such a trustworthy guy, Then what happened? Saturday, this officer did not turn up to the branch. Sunday, anyhow, he did not turn. Monday passed. Tuesday, the same NRI Christian customer came and asked the manager, sir, what happened to my problem? Did you find any solution? Then manager called for this officer, and he came to know this particular branch is quite big. It's not a small branch. It's a very big branch. And when he came to know from his colleagues that this gentleman is on leaves in the past 4 years, 4 days, and he has not informed anyone. Then the alarm bell started ringing. Alarm bell. I repeat once again, alarm bell started ringing. The divisional manager immediately told his subordinates. Subordinates means his immediate subordinates and people bigger than the officer. They started checking all the transactions of this particular officer. Then they dialed the Manipal head office for some experts, There were some experts in the audit and inspection department. They too joined in the proceedings, and finally they found out that this particular officer has conducted 50 similar transactions of the value for anywhere between 4 to 5,000 rupees, totaling 210 to 220,000 rupees in the year 1982, which if you convert into today's, that is 2021 value, it will be almost 40 lakhs. 40 lakhs, I repeat, this was the first fraud which my father was narrating to me, and that is still registered in my brain because I know this particular officer. I have attended the functions in his house, and this particular office was missing in action. Now what to do? 40 total was 210,000 in 1982, which if you convert, it is almost 42 lakhs. And now how to trace him? Because he's missing in action. Even in his home also, he's not there. So the manager was quite a clever person, this particular manager. What he did was, he told his driver, car driver, just to keep an eye on his home throughout the day. And this particular officer was visiting the home once in a while between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning. Then they got the clue. They caught him with the help of the police, and they found out that this particular officer was targeting only those accounts where there were no much transactions but had a high value of savings in those particular account, because those days you did not have something known as what is that these days that dormant accounts. There was no such thing called as dormant accounts, and this particular officer was keeping an eye on only such accounts, and he was able to withdraw. So this was the case with an officer. Now let us think about the top level. Top level is MD and CEO. Actually, some 2 years back, there was one whistleblower who wrote saying that there are some irregularities in the loans sanctioned by ICICI Bank, and the parties involved were the MD and CEO of the bank, Mrs. Chanda Kochhar, and her husband Deepak Kochhar, who had a company called New Power Renewables, and Mr. Venugopal Dutt of Videocon Group. So what exactly happened? There was a whistleblower who said that there is some quid pro quo basis of transaction. What is quid pro quo? Quid pro quo means something in return. So what happened? This complaint went to the board, and so the board had to appoint Justice B.N. Sri Krishna. It is a famous, this particular gentleman is one of the famous judges of Supreme Court, whose name even today is taken with respect. If I want to use the words in the Hindi, उनका नाम आज भी इज्जत से लिया जाता है. Okay, so there was one committee which was made under B.N. Sri Krishna committee. He was the head of inquiry, who was assisted by a law firm and a forensic investigation firm, and the banks, that is the own ICICI Bank's own audit committee also assisted him, and he nailed that Mrs. Chanda Kochhar had definitely, she had taken some money. And what was this thing? Total exposure of Videocon since the beginning of the relationship with ICICI Bank till the year 2012 was almost it's not a small amount, it's a big amount, 3,250 crores. And the this thing, what is that? When this thing was given to Mr. B.N. Sri Krishna, they told him, you have to do investigation from April 1, 2009 till March 31st, 2018, when Mrs. Chanda Kochhar was holding a very responsible position as the credit head. Credit head in banks means they are the one who decide how much loans has to be given to a party, what are the terms and conditions. So Mrs. Chanda Kochhar was heading the committee, and what happened? See the interesting point which came into picture. 64 crores of amount was paid by Videocon Group to New Power Renewables on September 8, 2009. And on September 7th, 2009, what had happened? ICICI had given a loan of 300 crores to Videocon Group. The previous day, 300 crores was given to Videocon Group. And the next day, that is on September 8, 2009, an amount of 64 crores was transferred from Videocon to New Power Renewables, which was owned by Deepak Kochhar, the husband of Chanda Kochhar. Straight away, it doesn't require any, what is that, nuclear energy or nuclear science saying that there is something quid pro quo. Definitely there was quid pro quo. Then this 64 crores, over a period of time, it became 74 crores, and the entire amount has been treated by the Enforcement Directorate as the proceeds of quid pro quo. Now what happened? Further it went. Further what happened? There was one apartment belonging to Videocon which was sold to the family trust owned by Chanda Kochhar at a very nominal price. I believe it was in Worli. Worli is a very highly expensive real estate property is very expensive in this area of Bombay, and they got it at a very nominal rate. After further, the enforcement directorate even went further, and they found out that Chanda Kocher's brother-in-law, that is brother of Deepak, her husband Deepak, who was sitting in Singapore, was actually making negotiations for a haircut. Haircut means when a loan becomes bad, there is a question of haircutting. Means the borrower will say, okay, I have to owe you 100 rupees. You give me a haircut of 45 or 50 rupees. I will pay the 50 and let us close the account for good. This is called haircut. And he was negotiating. So this was the another this thing which came into picture. Let us go to the next slide. There are three scenarios on. So in the last example, we studied how the frauds can be done at the higher level as well as the lower level. Now there are three scenarios a business operating in India might face. Forensic audit can help you business to collect evidence to produce in court. Yes, this is very much important. The evidence has to be produced in court, and this evidence helps you to assert claims or facilitate easier fraud settlements. Then, if any of your employees has been caught committing white collar fraud and blue collar fraud, both exist. White collar fraud, I will give you one example. I was working in a company in Middle East, and we got a very good big contract in Doha. Doha is a place where next year you have the World Cup 2022, which will be played between November and December 2022, 1 year from now onwards. So what happened? We were given a project in one of the areas known as Lusail, where Lusail is a part in Doha, where the main playground is being built. This is a central, remember, I am going to make it very clear. It is a central air-conditioned stadium which can hold up to 80,000 spectators. 80,000 spectators. I repeat that. And what is the total strength of this stadium? 80,000. I believe the Motera Stadium, Narendra Modi Stadium in Motera in Ahmedabad can have 100,000. This is slightly less than that, 80,000. So what happened? We were given an area of around 12 acres for making all the landscaping job. Landscaping means making that area very beautiful, green, totally green, with trees, green trees, and hard landscaping consisting of blocks, uni blocks, and putting trees, soft landscape, all these things. So, but that area, I have been there personally, so I know that it was totally nothing could grow. Such was the area. So we had to remove. And somewhere, I'm not exactly sure, but around 10,000 cubic feet of area we had to clean it or something like that. But actually what happened, we got a bill from supplier for 14,000 cubic meter. And if you do the calculation, he was giving us a bill for 200,000, not 200, 2 million dirhams. He was giving us an extra bill. Then we had to do forensic auditing. What we did, we calculated the total area, total bill which he had submitted to us with the total area which was there in the initial bill of material, bill of quantities, and we found out that this situation cannot arise. That is at excess of 4,000 cubic meter. Accordingly, this matter was given prominence, and then we had to inform our chairman that such a thing has happened. So this is white collar fraud. White collar fraud committed at the higher level, that is at the general manager level. Then you have the blue collar fraud. What is blue collar fraud? Blue collar fraud means the people, at the lower end, okay, it can be even an ordinary worker or a supervisor or his gangman, whatever it is. What they go for low level fraud means they normally do the theft of the items which is kept in the storeroom. So even such a situation also exists. Now, forensic audit also helps you settle with shareholders, employees, partners, without having to go through an actual trial. Now, fraud. There are few reasons related to the fraud associated with the financials of a company. False and willful representation or assertion, perpetrator of representation, intention to deceive. The representation must relate to a fact. Then the active concealment of facts, promise with no intention of performing it. The representation of the party, any other act fitted to deceive, any such act or omission that the law specially declares as void, wrongful loss and wrongful gain is immaterial. Let me explain all this with a practical example. I have two examples, real examples, which happened in our country in India. Number one, in Bangalore, there was one gold company called IMA Jewelry. I think most of you have heard. And in Hyderabad, you have another company called as Hira Group. In IMA Jewelry, what happened was there were 100,000 or 1 lakh of investors who had invested almost 4,000 crores. It is not a small amount. 100,000 people almost contributed 4,000 crores. And in Hira Group, it is slightly even more bigger than IMA Group. You had 1,72,000 investors with an total investment of 5,600 crores. And what they promised, both these companies, what they promised was that they are doing Islamic finance. Because I was in Middle East, I know these terms in Islamic finance. There are basically 4 different types of Islamic finance. One is Ijara, one is Murabaha, one is Mudarba, and another is Mushakkara. Let me not go deep into it, but I'll give you one small hint or important note about Islamic finance. In Islamic finance, they are supposed not to take interest both on savings as well as they are not supposed to pay interest on loans taken. So that is a concept. It is they are very particular about that they don't want to take interest nor give interest. So this is about Islamic finance. And in Swiss banks, it is reverse. You have to pay interest to maintain savings bank account. They don't pay interest. But in India, lucky enough, we get interest for even small, even savings bank. But it is very modest, around 3%, I think, these days. So let us come back to IMA Jewelry and Hira Group case. In the case of IMA Jewelry, the Reserve Bank of India came to know that there was some hanky-panky going on in this company. So they wrote a letter to our Economic Offences Wing of the Karnataka State Police, which had its head office in Bangalore. And the EOW of the police department gave a clean sheet to IMA. The reasons I don't want to explain. They gave a clean sheet until what happened. IMA Jewelry, they said they will pay 9% initially, then it came down to 5%, then it came to 3%, then 1%, and finally in the year May 2018, they stopped paying, and this entire 4,000 crores simply vanished, or there was no proper answer. And in case of Hira Group, my God, they went even more ahead than these people, and they said any investment you will get either 36 to 40% per annum. This nobody can believe. People believe, and the total outstanding was almost 5,600 crores. So just to think, this is the amount of greediness which people have, and this is what explains IMA Jewelry and Hira Group. So, if you see clearly, in India we have too much Ponzi scheme. These two come under Ponzi scheme, and you have a pyramid scheme. Have you heard about pyramid scheme? In pyramid scheme, it is little bit different. If I start a pyramid, first what I have to do is To get my money, I have to bring in 2 more members. These 2 more members have to bring 4 more members. And once I reach level 7 or 8, then I will start getting money. Until then, I will not get any money. But by the time you reach that level 7 or 8, the entire show would have been closed. This is called the pyramid schemes, Ponzi schemes. Earlier I have explained. And another is half price shops. Half price shops thrive in level that is in the B and C level, that is in smaller places, not in big cities, in smaller places. Means first they will set up a shop and they will start offering everything under the sun with 50% payment. They will give you fridge, they will give you TV, everything at 50%. Then after 1 week, the name spreads and other people come thinking that they also will get the same at 50% discount. But what this gentleman will say, he will say you have to pay initially this much amount and I will arrange after some time. And what he will do, in this period of 3 to 4 weeks, he would have collected almost 1 crore or more, and one fine day he will give the slip. This is another half price scheme, shops. Then next, a forensic audit. A forensic audit is an examination of a company's financial records to derive evidence which can be used in a court of law or legal proceedings. Fair enough, I had explained to you. Now let me give another example. Company Ahalya and Farah Inc. These are the 2 companies. What happens? Simple, anybody can understand. On the recommendation of the CFO, a contract with Farah Inc. for the supply of cards. At that time, Farah Inc. was not authorized to conduct business as its license was suspended due to certain irregularities in taxes paid. The CFO means the CFO of company Ahalya had knowledge of this fact, but still recommended that Telemart Ahalya enter into a contract with Farah Inc. because he was secretly receiving compensation from Farah Inc. for doing so. A forensic audit can reveal such cases of fraud. Very easy to understand. Now let us go to the financial statement fraud. What is financial statement fraud? Financial statement fraud is the willful and deliberate misstatement of or misrepresentation, creating a false impression and omission of financial statement data to mislead the reader of a company's financial strength. Let us go back to our CA days. In CA days, you remember there was something we learned about window dressing, making things very beautiful. Our window, and though inside there may be something, the picture may be something else. Same case. Generally, it defers revenues or expenses in a different time period to show consistent earnings or growth towards the other extreme. It consists of overstating revenues. It diminishes the confidence of market participants and capital markets in the dependability of financial information. That is FDA, forensic data analysis, and the initially fraud triangle and fraud risk. Let me give one beautiful example for financial statement fraud. This is a well settled case pertaining to Satyam. I don't want to bore you, but I will give some figures so that you can know what is the meaning of this financial statement fraud. Number 1, 7,855 crores. That is a total amount of financial irregularities in Satyam Computer Services scam. Number 2, 7,500 numbers of fictitious invoices discovered. Fictitious invoices discovered. It's not the real invoices. Almost 7,500 numbers. Then fictitious revenue reported between April 2002 and September 2008. Amount 5,352 crores. Then fictitious interest income recorded from 2002 to 2008. Almost 900 crores. All big amounts. Okay. Then fictitious foreign exchange gain from the year 2002 to 2008, 206 crores. Then number of clients, almost 500 they had, and number of employees, almost 45,000 employees they had. I'll be sharing all this presentation once it is over. I have clearly mentioned and I have made it very interesting so that anybody can understand. Now what happened? Satyam Computers gave a rosy picture about themselves, and finally, you know, Tech Mahindra took over that company, and the share value, which had gone up to 7, the lifetime high was almost 763 rupees, I think. Yeah, 700 and I'm sorry, 723 rupees as on 7th of March 2000. And in this entire Satyam scam, only person who made money is my elder brother. He was very lucky gentleman. What happened when the Satyam IPO came? I think it came in the year 92, I believe, 92. There was a separate quota for non-resident Indian clientele, and he had little money. So what he did, he put for 4,000 shares of Satyam, and I think a 10 rupee share was being offered at 40 rupees. 10 plus 30 rupees. 30 rupees was the share premium at that time, 1992. And believe it or not, he got entire lot. 4,000 he applied, 4,000 he got at 40 rupees. That means 1,60,000 rupees he had spent in the year 1992. And he was the most luckiest guy. What happened? In the year 2000, he took a home in Dubai. Even now he is in Dubai. And that time, the share price was too much, 723 rupees. So he sold the entire, because it was in NRI quota, he could easily repatriate to UAE. So totally he paid 28 lakh rupees in one transaction in the year 2000. That because that time there was a special quota for non-resident Indians. Next, these are the different this thing. What is that? Individual steps required to know to find out the forensic whether there was a fraud or not. One is audit planning and strategy. Everybody knows. Number 2 is field work, collect information and obtain evidence. Right? You are clear, no? Everybody is clear about this. Next, you have identification of fraud, masterminds, discover ways, and how frauds are concealed. Then the 4th step, analysis, evaluate and assess the impact of evidence. Measurement of frauds and collection of evidence admissible in court. Then you have fraud prevention measures and exercise professional judgment. Number 7th step, reporting and documentation. And last one is allowance of pets. Pets means don't confuse with the pets which you have, domesticated pets in your home. It is something else. Providing advice to prevent and measure the recurrence of fraud. This is the meaning of pets. So audit planning, fieldwork, identification of fraud, analysis and evaluation, measurement of frauds, fraud prevention, reporting and documentation, and pets. So this is about what is that forensic audit. Now, if I just keep on telling, nobody will understand this. So let me go deep. I will give you a live example which happened recently. This particular bank, public sector, it was a public sector bank, and its retired chairman, I am repeating, chairman and managing director of this huge public sector bank recently was arrested by Rajasthan police. What was the issue? The issue was, when he was a chairman, he had given a loan to one resort, resort where people go to enjoy their weekends or something like that. And this particular resort was based in Rajasthan, and total loans granted by this particular public sector undertaking was 200 crores, and outstanding interest was 40 crores. So total how much? 240 crores. 240 crores was almost gone. They never paid the money, this particular resort guys. So what happened? The ARC stands for Asset Reconstruction Company. What they did, they sold this particular hotel to a third party. I am telling you, an asset costing 240 crores was sold to a third party at a fraction of just 20 crores. If you do apple to apple comparison, this is something serious. 240 crore worth of asset is sold for 20 crores. Don't you think this is wrong? Yes, this is wrong. So based on this, the police arrested him. There was a big hullabaloo by the existing bankers from different banks saying that the chairmen cannot be held responsible. Then wait. Immediately after this, what happened? The CBI started investigation, and they found out that there are totally, remember, in India there are 28 asset reconstruction companies. I repeat, 28 asset reconstruction companies coming under IBBI, insolvency and what is that? There is a big name for this, insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, IBBI. There are totally 28 ARCs, and they found out that 4 ARCs, NPA acquired by ARC, far less rate than the market value. If the market value is 100 rupees, they were acquiring at almost 20 or 30 rupees. Don't you think this is a shocking fact? Yes, it is a shocking fact. Then the CBI went further ahead, and they found out that the borrower and the ARC, that is a relation through, there was a relation between borrower and ARC, and the relation through a maze of shell companies. There was a relationship between the borrower and ARC. ARC would have procured, and it would ultimately go to the borrower himself, the original borrower. So just imagine 240 crores of asset going for 20 crores. This is much more dangerous than the haircut which I discussed earlier. So the CBI found that almost the total value of that 4 ARCs were under 75,000 crores under income tax scanner. ARC deals with worth 75 crores under IT scanner, because for CBI and IT they are going in a joint joint ride, So this way, this thing can be done in, the frauds can be committed in any ways, higher value things being sold for a lower rate, and ultimately we have to pay for them. Let us go to the next slide to get things more clearer. Asset misappropriation. This includes very often, this is the one which is being used by everyone, abused part. This includes raising fake invoices, misappropriation of cash. Very interesting. I have one live example. One of the companies where I worked in Abu Dhabi, what happened was, we used to have daily cash sales of anywhere between 40,000 dirhams to 50,000 dirhams. I will tell you the value later, how much it will be. And what happened? The factory was outside Abu Dhabi, and the invoice was being paid in the main office the next day, not at the same time. At the same time, only the delivery note was prepared, and in the delivery note, they used to write how much cash has been received. And with the delivery note, it used to come to the main office, and we used to make the cash invoice. Cash invoices was automatically recorded in cash sales account. Then the money from factory, it used to come the next day, so that it has to be deposited in the bank, and it used to get deposited. So there was almost 48 hours gap between the actual cash sale and the actual making of invoice and actual entry in the bank, that is the cash deposited in the bank. So when I was the chief accountant, we used to do the reconciliation on a daily basis. Normally, I used to have only 1 day's pending reconciliation. So then what happened? Luckily, I got another good job. So I left this job and I went to another company. Then there was another accountant, Filipino accountant. And what happened? She was not able to keep a track of all these items. So this particular accountant, that is that factory accountant, he started delaying the cash. 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, totally. Finally, he was able to delay up to 15 days. So even if you take 450,000 Abu Dhabi dirham, that is 430,000 into 15 days, 450,000 Abu Dhabi dirham, almost 90 lakhs. 90 lakhs for a factory accountant from Pakistan is a huge amount. What he did, he was a very clever guy. See, normally the people who commit fraud are very brilliant and clever. I always have a look at them. So what he did, he went to the factory manager and he said, sir, I need my passport. Yeah, in UAE, the control point is a passport. Like even in India, if you commit a fraud, the court says this particular gentleman cannot go beyond India. That means his passport has to be with the court. So similarly, he went to the factory manager and he said, sir, I need this passport. Factory manager asked, for what reason? Sir, to open a license. They believed because you just couldn't suspect him. He took the passport and same day evening he left. And finally they came to know that he has gone with around 450,000 dirhams, which if you roughly translate is almost 90 lakhs. And it's a huge amount for this guy. And he couldn't be traced at all because the same day evening he left for Pakistan. Next, payments made to non-existing employees or suppliers. This happens in payroll and all these things. Employees, basically payroll malpractices. One small note I have on it. Overtime stating higher. They state the overtime because overtime normally you have 1.25, 1.5 and 2 times of the normal rate. So overstatement of this overtime stating, and absent shown as present. Even if the employee is absent, he is shown as present. Then more interest on hired laborers, especially the HR manager. I have studied all HR managers. What they do is they are more interested in hiring outside laborers than utilizing their own laborers, because one, the outside laborers come at a higher rate, and definitely there is a link between the hired laborers and the HR company which gives the laborers to the HR manager. Then more interest on hired laborers versus own laborers. Then more interest on hired equipment versus own equipment. Equipment means I am talking about bulldozer, road rollers and all these things. Even if your company, because a company where I was working, it was more like Larsen and Toubro, we had similar operation like them. So I am very familiar with that entire plant. Plant means don't take that biological plant. Plant department. Plant department means the entire fleet of vehicles, everything comes into that. That is about this one. Theft of inventory, that's a common thing. Theft of inventory is very, very common. So you should have a control over that. Everything has to be under lock and key. A, B, and C type of inventory has to be maintained, and there has to be a control. Then misuse of assets. Misuse of assets, I can give you a number of examples. Let me give you one example. To do the small groundwork, in India I have not seen, but in Middle East, to do the small groundwork, you have something known as bobcats. Bulldozer, Caterpillar bulldozers, they do big jobs. Whereas bobcat, they do jobs in a very small place. Now what happens? This bobcat, they have got only two rubber tracks to move front and back and to remove the material, dump it or whatever it is. So what we found was, we know that each rubber track has got certain life and it has got certain working hours. And when we started putting the consumption report of the rubber tracks and used on bobcat, we found out that our own guys were doing business in this rubber tracks, because rubber tracks are quite expensive. Even in India it is expensive. Even in Middle East also it is expensive. So we found out that every month 2 pieces of rubber tracks are more than enough, but we were having consumption of 3. Then of course we found out everything, and then we left that position so that the misuse of assets was stopped. Then what happened? This one is very interesting case. Once randomly, I went to do an audit. And when I was doing the audit of physical stock, I found almost 110 brand new air conditioners. Accounts also is under me, and the auditing department also is under me. So I went and saw that particular local purchase order. We call it local purchase order when you place an order within the city. And I found out that there was an LPO, everything was perfect. All the documentation work was perfect. And what was the reason mentioned for 110 window AC? The concerned project manager had written that this is going to be used in the laborers camp. And I went to the laborers camp, and labor camp also all lists are brand new. Apart from this, you have this 110 brand new air conditioners. Brand new, they are still unpacked. They are sitting in the godown. It is in a very remote place. Nobody used to go there. I said, let us go have a surprise check, and I found out this. Then I came to know, I got a big explanation, very big explanation. What was the explanation given to me? They said, this particular, this thing, I came to know that this particular project manager, he was, you can say he was also very trustworthy in the eyes of our chairman. And this 110 windows were not intended for the labor camp, but he was simultaneously running a company of his own. My God, a big man doing his own business with taking the benefit of the parent company, which is not related to his company, and he was doing on his own. Don't you think this is wrong? Yes, absolutely. This is wrong. This is called misuse of assets. It comes about in undesirable condition when people who are interested to manage the assets of the company. I'm talking about the same thing. Organization give away from it. Moreover, it can be the greatest detrimental to the company when it may lead to infiltration by other organizations to take control over the control of the victim company. It directly hits on the cash flow of the organization. I hope you're all clear about this. Now let us go to all these things. Let me go in brief. You have corruption, you have extortion, you have bribery, and you have conflict of interest. And let me give some brief examples for this. Corruption, extortion, bribery, conflict of interest. You see, I was for some time, I was in charge of procurement also. Procurement was quite big. If you translate into India, it is almost, I was handling a department worth 360 crores of procurement every year. And there I came to know spares of vehicles or whatever it is. They used to have original and duplicate. Original and duplicate, the difference was almost 3 times. Then diesel consumption. What is diesel consumption? In India, diesel is cheaper, petrol is expensive. In Middle East, it is a reverse. Petrol is cheap, diesel is expensive. And there are a whole lot of people who are doing this business of diesel, because our company was buying too much diesel from ADNOC. ADNOC is the main company, Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, which was giving diesel, and we were buying a lot of diesel from them. Everything perfectly accounted for, but the problem was with us, there was a lot of seepage. So that was about diesel consumption. Then purchases, fictitious purchases. That is normal purchases, fictitious. Then you have sales, inflated sales. Then you have expenses related to sales. This is very important, another important thing. Expenses related to sales. See, every company has one glorified account name known as business development expenses or business promotion expenses, where if you closely see, the value of such transaction will be very high, because these are all off the record payments which are being made to some people. So you have to be careful about that one. Then then finally you have the assets also. The assets being smuggled out. We came to know that one of the tipper lorries which we had, was being run in Africa. How we came to know? We had put GPS in each of the vehicle, and we could track from GPS that even without us knowing, it was shipped out of UAE and it was in Africa. So you should have a eagle's view on all your assets, or else definitely all these things will happen. Now, let us go to the next slide. Corruption, extortion, bribery, then conflict of interest. How a forensic audit company helps you. Let me share you one thing. I'll be sharing this presentation. It's a beautiful presentation. I took some time to prepare it. If you go through the entire presentation, it will be very easy to understand. Planning and investigation, collection of evidence, reporting, assistance for court proceedings. Let us go to the next slide. Then the differences between forensic audit and internal audit. These are the two different, what are the differences? This is explained in this slide. Then forensic audit versus financial audit. A forensic auditor is required to have a special training in forensic audit techniques and in the legalities of accounting issues. A forensic audit has additional steps that need to be performed in addition to regular audit procedures. Then, these are the ideal qualities of a forensic auditor. One thing is he should know about the law, he should have an accounting knowledge, he should be having a criminology minded. He shouldn't do it, but he should be having how people think in a criminology way. Then investigative auditing. Then he should be good in computer science and good in forensic accounting. Computer science means normally to track the problem, you will be having too much data. And this data, how you can connect the data which is actually relevant to the forensic audit. There are two different ways. One is in Excel, MS Excel, you have something known as pivot table, and another one is crystal reports. I have not tried crystal reports, so I don't have much idea about crystal reports. But believe me, pivot table can answer any of your problems. You can find out any problem with the data which you can offload from your system to, you can export it to Excel, and from in Excel, you can have pivot table. So I always tell, if you want to learn Excel, please become proficient in MS Excel pivot table. It is very, very important. I learned pivot table after going to Middle East. My knowledge became good. Then again, I came back to India. Here, I took special training for pivot table so as to track anything. You can track anything in the pivot table just by changing the columns and rows and what all things. You can define it. And this is about the requirements of a forensic auditor. Then why is a forensic audit conducted? That is to know whether there is conflict of interest or bribery. Bribery means Mr. A bribes an employee of company B to provide certain data to aid A in preparing a tender offer to B. These were the good old days. Now these days it doesn't happen like this. In these days, everything is done online and everything is submitted on e-portal of the government. And what happens after the stipulated day, the tender, this thing is open, and you yourself can see who has quoted how much and who has won the contract. This was during the old days. Then extortion. If A demands money in order to award a contract to B, then that would amount to extortion. So, conflict of interest, bribery, and extortion. Next, plan the investigation means how to plan the investigation, identify what fraud, if any, is being carried out, determine the time period during which the fraud has occurred, discover how the fraud was concealed, identify the perpetrators of the fraud, quantify the loss suffered due to the fraud, gather relevant evidence that is admissible in the court, suggest measures that can prevent such frauds in a company. I have a live example for this. In the year 2012 and 2000, this happened in the year between 2012 and 2015. You all know Bank of Baroda, right? Bank of Baroda. they have a branch known as Ashok Vihar branch, which is in New Delhi. Brand new branch. And believe it or not, in this brand new branch, many new accounts were opened with the actual connivance of the bank staff too, because without their knowledge, you cannot open. Now, what happened? A very strange thing happened here. There were 8,000 transactions over these two periods, that is from 2013 to 2015, and the total value of the transaction was 6,000 crores. 8,000 transactions, 6,000 crores. And what was the amount mentioned? Advance against imports. I mean, what happened was the amount was transferred from this branch to Hong Kong, and from Hong Kong it was dispersed to someone else, or it came back to India. I will tell you what exactly the meaning is. 6,000 crores was sent away from India, and it was mentioned this is advance against imports. Beneficiary was the same person. And in legal terms, this is called as smurfing. That is, you're sending money, and 6,000 crores was sent over a period of 2 years through 8,000 transactions. And what happened? All the transactions were less than 100,000 US dollars. Because had it been more than 100,000 US dollars, it would have generated ETR. ETR means exception transaction report. So to not to come under that ETR this thing, they did this. Finally, they were caught by the Enforcement Directorate. Even the bank people, bank staff are also under arrest. So you have to be very careful how the this thing, what's that, the fraud takes place. You know, fraud. It's not. Yeah, it's a fraud. It's a fraud. Yeah. Then this is first part. Then collecting evidence. A logical flow of evidence will help the court in understanding the fraud and the evidence presented. Forensic auditors are required to take precautions to ensure that documents and other evidence collected are not damaged or altered by anyone. What is financial statement fraud and elements of financial audit? This already I have explained in that Satyam case. This is the same thing, financial statement. Common techniques used for collecting evidence in a forensic audit. Substantiative techniques, doing a reconciliation, review of documents, analytical procedures used to compare trends over a certain time period or to get comparative data from different segments. Computer-assisted audit techniques, understanding internal controls and testing so as to understand the loopholes which allowed the fraud to be perpetrated, and interviewing the suspects. Next, reporting. After all these things happens, then you have to do a reporting also. It can be presented to a client about the fraud. The report should include the findings of investigations. Now, talking about investigation, there is a difference between investigation and forensic audit. When is an investigation called up? The investigation is called up when there is going to be acquisition of a company, or purchase of business, or prospective investments, or admission of new partners, or to detect the fraud, or systems breakdown, or prospective lending, or company acts investigation. These are the different categories when investigation is required. Acquisition of a company, I repeat, purchase of business, prospective investments, admission of new partners, fraud, systems breakdown, prospective lending, and company acts investigation. Let me drive home the point through two good examples. Fraud, let me explain to you. You all have heard about DHFL, right? DHFL Finance, which is being now taken over by Pyramid Capital. Now what happened? In DHFL, there was one branch in Bandra, very famous, Bandra branch of DHFL. And why it was famous? In this particular branch, they had created 250,000 fake accounts. I repeat, 250,000 fake accounts were created in the Bandra branch, and total fraud committed was almost 14,000 crores 14,000 crores to avail the benefit of Prime Minister Awas Yojana, PMAY. PMAY, you know, our great Prime Minister Mr. Modi had launched the scheme. PMAY, they took the benefit also. They first of all they created fake accounts of almost 2,50,000, and everything was fake. I don't know how they did it because I had a problem with the Axis Bank. For a simple name change, my account was blocked for some time, and here entire 2,50,000 accounts turned out to be fake. And wonder of wonders, they had a separate software also developed for this branch, which was not coming under the main accounts of DHFL. This was separate, and separate software, everything separate. So this was about the DHFL case, about fraud. I'm talking about fraud. And systems breakdown. Systems breakdown can happen. I will give you one fine example. This year, in the month of May 2021, there is a small, MFI. That is, MFI means they give loan to very small borrowers like Bandhan Bank. This was Bharat Financial Inclusion. Bharat Financial Inclusion, part of IndusInd Bank. IndusInd Bank gave 84,000 customers without their, they did not give any consent, distributed loan to 84,000 customers. And they say it was more like evergreening, but again, that created a flutter in IndusInd Bank operations because somebody resigned and it was not taken up. Then RBI said we will investigate this matter. So 84,000 accounts of Bharat Financial Inclusion, they got a top up of their loan even without asking for it. And the bank said that it was because of technical issue. I had a problem with this IndusInd Bank. Last year, I had deposit. Remember, I don't have any loan, but I had deposit with this bank. And the balance in internet banking is not matching with the mobile banking. It's not matching with the ATM balance. I really got upset. And the amount was, I had around, just for example, if you say I had 100,000 rupees as deposit, in each different places it was showing either 75,000, 85,000. Then I really got upset and I withdrew all my money from this bank because that time there was some issues regarding their exposure to some sectors, you know. So I removed. Then after removing, I wrote a letter to the chairman, Mr. I remember, clearly I remember, Ramesh Sopti. Sir, in 3 different platforms, I am getting 3 different values. What is this? The same thing after 1 year, it happened here. Because they had not taken care, you know. And I knew, perfectly I knew that I was correct. And I wrote a letter saying that in 3 different places, that is ATM machine, then internet banking, and then mobile banking, same, my total deposits is showing totally different value. And on the contrary, it is showing that the bank has got a lien on my deposits. For what? Only God knows. This is a system error, you know. Next, court proceedings do take place. It's a detailed engagement which requires the expertise of not only accounting and auditing procedure, but also expert knowledge regarding the legal field. This is about it. Then, accepting the investigation and know your client, something like know your client, planning the audit, investigation and strategy. These are the different steps. Then gathering evidence for investigation. You have to gather the evidence. Then reporting and documentation and court proceedings, fraud prevention measures and exercise judgment. Common theme in the frauds, that is serious corporate governance lapses. Go to my first example, ICICI Bank, the epitome of corporate governance. There also things can go wrong. Greed of promoters and lack of integrity, that is also true. Greed of promoters and lack of integrity. Then promoters' domination on all key affairs of the company. Diversion of companies and borrowed funds to related entities for personal benefits of the promoters. High leverage and resulting liquidity issues and default in loan repayments. These are all practical things you will be coming to see in the coming slides. cheating gullible investors and home buyers, Carvey and Unitech. Let us go. This was the issue which I said about Satyam. All these are the figures. I will share it with you. Then Kingfisher Airlines. These are all the items of airlines. Now, I have a special small talk on airline industry. Airline industry, from distance, it looks too glamorous. But I have done a lot of research in this, too much research in airline industries. What actually happens is you have too much requirements of working capital. Without working capital, you simply cannot run the airlines because everything associated with the airline is expensive. That is strategic risk, that is investment in planes. Planes, either you can buy upfront or you can get it on lease from America. America is the main source for getting planes. Then you have financial risk, that is excessive debt, that is common to all the airlines which I am going to discuss. Operational risk, fuel cost, that is aeroplane runs on ATF, airline aviation turbine fuel. And fortunately, I am seeing that ATF presently is cheaper than petrol and diesel in India. And ATF, you have 4 different prices, one in Bombay, Calcutta, Delhi, and Chennai. Each city has got its own price. Then strategic risk, market analysis and strategic risk, merger with Air Deccan. Now, talking about airlines, because my father was in bank, I used to travel a lot, somehow by LFC for father or some or the other way. So what happened? Initially, I remember we used to travel by Indian Airlines. Then for the small routes, we used to take the Vayudoot. Indian Airlines no more, Vayudoot no more. Then in the 90s, you had East-West Airlines. You remember East-West Airlines? Even that was also no more. After that, Damania Airways. Then initially in the 50s, when I was not born, you had Darbhanga Airways. Then you had Deccan Airways. Don't confuse it with Air Deccan. Air Deccan is different. Deccan Airways is different. So then you had Paramount Airlines. After Paramount Airlines was based in Chennai. Gujarat Airlines based in Gujarat. All this, they're for short term. They come, they get the pinch, and yeah, I forgot the big one, Jet Airways. Okay, in Kingfisher Airways, you have the following scenario. They had a ballooning debt of almost 7,057 crores and total accumulated loss was 6,000 crores. My family, they were flying in Kingfisher Airlines because Kingfisher Airlines used to fly from Dubai to Bangalore, whereas I was based in Abu Dhabi. So I used to go all the way to Dubai and I used to drop, and they said they had enjoyed during that time. So this is about Kingfisher Airlines. Then this is Jet. See the Jet Airways statistics. You have a debt of 8,500 crores and total liabilities at 25,000 crores. This is debts of 8,500 crores and total liabilities at 25k crores. That includes dues to the creditors. I have given this slide, go through it and it will be very interesting. DHFL, that was another big issue, Total net worth before it was being taken over by Piramal was 8,795 crores. Loans taken almost 96,880 crores. And these are all the breakup. Non-convertible debentures, secured non-convertible debentures, 28,819 crores. Non-convertible unsecured, 2,492 crores. Then banks, due to banks, 36,963 crores. Then external commercial borrowing, 2,965 crores. National Housing Board, 2,848 crores. Public deposits, 9,225 and others 13,567. I was behind DHFL because I had invested 100,000 rupees in the secured non-convertible debentures. I was very lucky. I got back my money some 2 months back, but I did not get the payment of interest for 2 years. I got my 100,000 which I had invested, but I had to get 18,000, that is at the rate of 9,000 rupees for 2 years. That I did not get. I counted my stars. I said, Thank God, at least I got my principal, not the interest. That's another thing. Next, RBI original dirty dozen. RBI's original dirty dozens. In this chart, what you see is these 12 companies owed to the bankers almost 3,45,000 crores of amount was outstanding from these 12 companies. Bhushan Steel, Lanco is a group based in Andhra Pradesh. SR Steel, Bhushan Power, another company belonging to the same Bhushan Steel. Alok Industries, Amtech Auto, Monet Ispat, Electro Steel. Electro Steel is a company based in Calcutta. Actually, when I was in my previous company, we were having dealing with them. They were the one who supply good. I don't know what happened to this company. They are supplying the cast iron water pipes, the big pipes which are used in water distribution by the municipalities. And we had taken their material because I was going for regular checks. The black colored steel, I think it's a steel one, yeah, black colored steel pipes which you see here also. They are manufacturing that Electro Steel, and we used to buy a lot from them through LCs, and our relationship was quite good with them. Now, if I'm not wrong, Vedanta has taken over this Electro Steel. Then you have Ira Infra, you have JP Industries, then ABJ Shipyard, and finally Jyoti Structures. Jyoti Structures, we had dealing with them. What they used to do, they were having all these things. What is that? You know, the power lines, that big towers where the power lines run from one tower to another tower. They were doing this. In one of the projects in Dubai, we took the towers from them. So that's why I know. So I was dealing with Electro Steel and Jyoti Structures, and I'm really well versed with how they do the business. Unfortunately, 345,000 crores, that is 3.45 trillion, was lost here. So this is about the RBI's original dirty dozen. Then you have this one. What is that? The famous Nirav Modi scandal, Nirav Modi or Mehul Choksi, whatever it is. Gokulnath Shetty was an officer in Punjab National Bank. Gokulnath Shetty, if you see, he is a BCom graduate from our own Vijaya College, Mulki. He is 30 kilometers away from my place, and he was working as an officer or deputy manager. I'm not sure about his designation. What happened was, Gokulnath Shetty, it's given a deputy manager. He used to make swift letters. To a layman, I would like to explain what is a SWIFT. SWIFT stands for Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. I repeat, Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. And how he was preparing the SWIFT messages is by bypassing the PNB's internal banking system. Obviously, it is a core banking. So, he used to bypass. In short, Shetty allegedly logs in as a different user. The bank usually has a security check, but the deputy manager circumvents it by using multiple passwords, allowing him to both enter and verify transactions. In short, he was a maker, he was a verifier, and he was the authorizer. This is a serious flaw of internal control in the bank. Remember, he was the maker, verifier, and authorizer. So what he was doing, he was making SWIFT letter of undertaking without any backing or any support. And he used to bypass the PNB's internal banking system until the situation came into forefront. This was in the Brady branch of Punjab National Bank, which is located in Fort Area in Bombay. Fort Area in Bombay is the commercial hub of the commercial city. I had been to Fort Area because one of my classmates' father had a restaurant there, and I stayed with them. They have a very nice restaurant in Fort Area. Its name is Ramdev, again belonging to Shetty's. And It's very near to the Tata House. You know, Tata House, the main head office of Tata Group, and it is exactly behind State Bank of India main branch. So I know this area. This area, the beauty of this area is after 6 p.m. it is just like my place, Ambal. There is no public movement, no vehicle movement, nothing, because all offices are located there. And once the staff leave, there is nothing. So even the restaurant used to close at 6 o'clock. So Swift LOUs, at least 150 such LOUs were transmitted in a fraud which PNB says amounted to 1.77 billion. Means if you convert it in today's rate, today the dollar rupee rate is almost 75 rupees, and it will be almost 13,275 crores. And how they did it? This Gokulnath Shetty sent to Hong Kong to the Allahabad branch of Hong Kong, and from Allahabad bank it was credited to, it is mentioned Nirav Modi and Nirav Modi. Actually it was Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi. Mehul Choksi, the breakup is 4,886 crores, and the balance 6,508 crores went to Nirav Modi. Mehul Choksi got 4,886 crores and Nirav Modi got 6,508 crores. So this is the breakup. Of course, there is a weak internal control in Punjab National Bank. In banks, there is a rule that not more than 3 years, one person in any place, they have to change. But this gentleman was there for 7 years. 7 years, remember. Okay, he may be good in what is that? See, typing LC, typing LOU. That is a predefined messages. In this line, this has to come, this line, this has to come, because I have gone through that, what you call treasury operations. So he must be good in that. So they kept him, but he defrauded the bank. And these are the great Indian rules, the statistics. Next, IL and FS group. Oh my God, this is another biggest fraud. See there, see the amount involved. Fund-based, non-fund based. Fund-based again secured, unsecured. Then non-fund based outstanding 5139, that is bank guarantee is 4,853 and letters of credit 286. Total in all 99,354. I will give you an example of the largest of IL and FS group. Once there was an interview for me for a post of, I think it was finance manager or something like that. They told me, that was in Dubai, they told me come to the Sheikh's office, which is located in the famous Maidan Hotel. Maidan Hotel means it's a 7-star property, not a 5-star property. So I went, because Sheikh must be a big man. So I went there at the appointed time and I met all the people there, the concerned finance team. And when I am sitting in the boardroom, I am seeing there is one board of IL and FS. So I asked that chief finance guy, how come ILF is sitting in your office, in this Sheikh's office? He said that we have a collaboration with them, IL and FS. Fine, I was really surprised. Now I understand. They had made such agreement with the sundry in every part of the world, because maintaining an office in Maidan is not a easy job. It's a very expensive property, and in Dubai, Sheikh Zayed Road itself is an expensive area, and this must be definitely 2 or 3 times more expensive than Sheikh Zayed Road. This was the way, what I mean to say is, this was the way how this company was being run, IL and FS. See, principal outstanding amount to 4,570 crores. GIFT, don't think GIFT is a gift. GIFT is an acronym for Gujarat International Financial Tech City. Gujarat International Financial Tech City. I will give a small this thing about GIFT. See, our Prime Minister Modi ji, he had an idea, he had a great vision. He saw that most of the transaction, whether it is Hong Kong, whether it is Singapore, whether it is Dubai, or whether it is Bahrain, these are all the, what is that, the financial centers. Most of the operations are carried by Indians only there. I know, whether it is Dubai or Bahrain, Singapore or Hong Kong, many Indians who have gone before, they do a lot of financial transaction. It is like a nice place for doing financial transaction. So with the same idea, he thought why India shouldn't have it, and that's why Gift City. It's a city by itself. It was established in a commercial business district of Gandhinagar, that is near Ahmedabad, and the present the chief of Gift is our ex-secretary of MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Mr. Injetti Srinivas. Then you have ONGC Tripura Power and all these things. So our Mr. Uday Kotak, the chairman of Kotak Mahindra Bank, was heading this. He had given a statement saying that out of this 99,354 crores, 60,000 crores has come back. But I need to see that report. Without seeing the report, I'm not going to confirm merely on hearsay. Next, Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Banks, the famous PNC Bank, what they did, only one customer, they gave 6,500 crore of loan, whereas RBI says for a group, you maximum exposure can be 25%, and for individual companies, it is 15%. Only during the COVID period, they had extended from 25 to 30%. That 5% was more. But again, from 1st of July this year, 2021, it has come back to 25%. And PNC, what they did, same like DHFL, they created fictitious accounts of 21,049 accounts. Then these accounts were never disclosed to RBI. That's a grave mistake. Know your customer. PNC advanced the loan amount of 6,500 crores to 44 different HDIL group entities. The scam between PNC and HDL has been existing since long time, 2011 till 2019. The scam was revealed when RBI intervened and asked for clarification, and the gross non-performing assets, which was earlier 3.76 as compared to other state banks, then it came to almost 77%. And you know the situation better than me. What is happening? They got a token amount and still customers are struggling to get back their deposits. Yes Bank. Yes Bank, see, these are all the brief points about Yes Bank. Actually, Rana Kapoor and his co-brother Ashok Kapoor and Rabobank. Rabobank is a Dutch, I think, yeah, Dutch bank. They were the one who started this bank. Ashok Kapoor, you know, in that Bombay attacks, he was the person who died in the 5-star hotel. He was killed by the terrorist because he had gone with his wife to have dinner in Trident, I think. In the Trident hotel, he was shot dead by the bullets of the terrorist. So after that, only Rana Kapoor was in charge. And Yes Bank hit the stock market with the 300 crore IPO. I was the one who got a little bit shares in the initial IPO, I remember clearly. Then Yes Bank reports divergence of 6,000. Divergence means the amount as if you can treat it as bad loans. Then RBI put Rana Kapoor's tenure by 3 months, blah blah blah, and these are the major companies which created problem for Yes Bank. That is ILFS, then Anil Ambani Group, CG Power, Cox and Kings, Altico, CCD, our own KF Coffee Day, SL Group, SR Power, Varadaraj Cement, that's a Gujarat-based company, Radius Developers, Mantri Group. So these are all the important statistics about them. Next, Cox and Kings. I'm not going much deeper. See here, it is mentioned promoter Peter Kerker has put entire blame on management over siphoning of money. But actually, this is his story. But the enforcement directorate said it is Mr. Peter Kerker himself who has to be blamed and not his staff, because he was the perpetrator of this siphoning of the money. Next, this is a famous Gautam Tapar, that is a CJ group. Now it is slightly better because the current market price of the share is almost, it is mentioned 18 rupees 40 paise, but actually it is 190 rupees as on date. It has come back. And here, CJ Power, the brief things I'll give you. In CJ Power, one of the directors was Mr. Omkar Goswami. Omkar Goswami is a gentleman who started the concept of corporate governance. He is better known as icon of corporate governance. And what happened? He was going and talking to the banks, and because of his face value, his integrity, this particular company was getting loans. And this itself became a big problem eventually, because totally the debt as on March 31st, 2019, I'm talking 2 years back, it was 2,455 crores. That is a fund-based debt, and non-fund-based debt was almost 1,380 crores. In all, 3,835 crores and a net loss of 652 crore for the year 2018 and 19. This is about the CJ Power. CJ Power, okay. Then this is our own CCD, Mr. VG Siddhartha. Unfortunately, this gentleman came all the way from Bangalore to Mangalore and committed suicide by jumping into Netravati River. Everybody knows about this. Still, the Cave Coffee Day, it is mentioned Tata Group is in talks, but until now, nothing has happened. The situation is the same. Then you have again our great bank, let me explain only the 4 points in this. Evergreening of loans, practice of charging high commission to borrowers, which was not in line with the industry practices, overstatement of profits due to front loading of commission income. The meaning of this is, banks generally give loans in 3 varieties, that is the short term, medium term, and long term. And according to the Narasimhan Committee, Mr. M. Narasimhan was the old Reserve Bank of India governor, and he had made one committee recommendation which said that it is almost in tune with the accounting standards also, that you cannot front load the commission income. If it is long term and medium term, you have to spread the commission income over the period of the loan. In this case, he didn't follow that. Especially the big beneficiaries of SL loans, Anil Ambani, Dhruvan Housing, SL Group, ILFS, straight away, even if the loan was for 3 years or 4 or 5 years, in the first year itself, he used to claim the commission, thereby artificially inflating the profit and giving a wrong picture. I am telling you, artificially inflating the profits and giving the wrong picture. Next, gross under provisioning of NPAs compared to RBI guidelines means he had to provide NPA for 10 rupees, but he was still providing NPA of only 2 rupees, which was against contrary to the RBI guidelines. This is the National Spot Exchange fraud. What happened was, they took the money, almost 5,600 crores from the public. Nor they gave back the money, nor they gave the commodities also. So this was also closed. And to give sanctity to their association, they had tied up with NAFED. NAFED means it stands for National Agriculture Cooperative Marketing Federation of India. Actually, the item National Spot Exchange was created to deal with the exchange of commodities other than bullion. For bullion, bullion means I'm talking about gold, silver, etc. Other than that, all the commodities. And 5,600 crores went in thin air. Then Amrapali. When I was in Middle East, every Republic Day and every Independence Day in my Abu Dhabi, there used to be a newspaper called Gulf News and Khaleej Times, and they used to come with the special material on these 2 important days, Republic Day and Independence Day. And it was a big book, the paper will be there, and along with the paper you have a separate book which comes with all different topics about India. And without fail, I was seeing our great Indian captain MS Dhoni advertising for this Amrapali promoters, and even that landed in problem. And these are the different stages of problem that led to the collapse of Amrapali. Lenders goes to insolvency court, buyers follow but move SC, and fraud begins to unravel this particular thing I am going to share with you. You can have a look at it. Then this is the famous another case, Winsome Diamonds. Winsome Diamonds was also like this only. Mehta's, they were suspected to have fled to St. Kitts and Nevis Island in the year 2013, and the amount was almost 6,500 crores to a consortium of banks. ED, Enforcement Directorate, CBN, SFIO, and Income Tax Department are probing the Mehtas. Then Singapore-based IIA Technology Private Limited, promoted by Mehtas, also under scanner. When talking about this tax havens, I have a little bit experience in this. There are many areas in the world where there is no tax actually. As mentioned, St. Kitts and Nevis Island is one of them. Cayman Islands, Netherlands, Singapore, Mauritius. In India, any big company, they come via Mauritius or Singapore. Isle of Man, Luxembourg, Channel Islands, Ireland, Bahrain. Bahrain is slowly losing its prominence. Now people are moving to Dubai, because in Dubai you have a Dubai Financial Center where everything, the infrastructure is very good, better than even Bahrain. But Bahrain has the advantage of being the earliest. Since 1900 they are the leaders. Then GIFT is in Gujarat. So this is about that. Next, this case against the siblings, this Religare problem, Religare Finvest, Religare Enterprises, and when the fraud was detected, the Singh brothers, all these things. Actually, you know, recently one Mr. Gentleman, Sukesh Chandrasekhar, he is coming into the picture. What exactly is Sukesh Chandrasekhar promised the wife of these two gentlemen that he will get them out from the Tihar jail if he paid certain money. And he almost was successful in conning by getting 200 crores to get them released from Tihar jail. But actually it was a fraud. They are still in the jail, and Sukesh Chandrasekhar is being interrogated by the Enforcement Directorate, and the two stars, who are they? Nora Fatehi and Jacqueline Fernandez are being questioned because Mr. Sukesh Chandrasekhar had given very expensive gifts to them, which they have failed to give a proper explanation. This is another big famous company, Sterling Biotech. The beauty of this company is it is run by two brothers, and the younger brother is a chartered accountant himself. So actually they did not have much to do. They purchased gelatin business from Tata's. Tata's Raleigh sold gelatin business to Sterling. Now you may ask me, what is gelatin? Gelatin means this particular biogelatin is used for preparing the capsules in the medicines industry, you know, the soft capsule, that is the gelatin that is being used. And they sold it for 47 crores in the year 2004. I think Sandesara brothers, they are the owners of this company. The problem is they have a huge debt and they have fled from India. They are in, I think, Nairobi or some African country. They are in some African country now. Totally 8,000 crores of debt on revenue. See the revenue. Revenue is 368 crores, but they have a debt of 8,000 crores. And total debt as on date is almost 15,000 crores. And still they are also outside India. And the major banks affected were Andhra Bank, Bank of India, Bank of Baroda. All the public sector banks were the major thing. What is it? They were the ones who were looted by these two brothers. Next, modus operandi. Karvy. This is very interesting case. Karvy Stockbroking pulled out shares from its clients' demat accounts, which they cannot legally remove. Then transferred those shares to demat accounts controlled by it, pledged those shares with banks and took money, transferred the money to real estate arm Karvy Realty, because Karvy Realty lost a lot of money due to the over expansion of Karvy Group. The real estate division of Karvy Realty was not doing well. So Mr. What was his name? I forgot the name of that gentleman, the chairman. What he did was he pulled the money belonging to others, and he pledged those shares with the bank, and he took money and then this fraud came into light, and now anyway it is closed now, but many people lost money in this. Then case history, Tata Finance. This was the issue in early 2000s. Their chairman had converted the loss into profit in its books to raise money with a rights issue by giving a wrong picture. In 2016, SEBI barred 4 entities from securities market, and the SAT, that is Securities Appellate Tribunal, have hauled up SEBI for letting off Tata Finance. Next, this is the Manpasand Beverages. Manpasand Beverages is a Vadodara-based company, and they had actually committed tax evasion of 40 crores involving turnover of 300 crores, and though they had a market capitalization of 1,200 crores, the continuing investigation has unearthed a network of more than 30 fake units to claim GST input tax credit. Then this is a Rotomac case, the famous pen company. Apart from pen company, they had the wholesale business also, and this outstanding amount is of Rotomac Global. That is 98% was wholesale trading and 2% plastic and rubber product manufacturing. That is 2015 was 9,138 crore, and 2016 it amounted to 5,874 crores. This is the turnover we are talking about. And these are the outstanding amounts, 771 from banks, different banks: Indian Overseas Bank of India, Union Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, Allahabad Bank, Oriental Bank of Commerce, and Bank of Maharashtra. Unpaid loans, 2,919 crores. Interest and penalties, 776 crores. Total outstanding, 3,695 crores. Unitech. The problem with Unitech was again same like Amrapali, and they ventured into another business, that is a telecommunication business known as Uninor. Unitech plus Telenor. Telenor means it's a company of Norway. Telenor. So this company with 1/3 capital by Unitech and 2/3 of the capital by Telenor, and all telecom services licenses given in the year 2008 by the UPA government, when S. Raja was the communication minister, had to be cancelled by June 2nd, 2013. There were 9 companies, and one of them was Unitech. So Unitech, Uninor had to be cancelled because Supreme Court itself has told them. And this one is pertaining to their reality. See the net profit and the total debt. It is unbelievable figures. Totally too much stretch. Next, quality. This is the same Quality dairy products. Again, they also did the same thing. Outstanding of 1,400 crores. Then you have what are the benefits of forensic audit. These are all the uncovering of corruption in a forensic audit, uncovering of asset misappropriation, uncovering of financial statement frauds. It helps in fraud identification and prevention. It makes sound investment decisions. It assists in the formula of economic policy. Forensic auditing, clear objectivity and credibility, definite valuable accounting expertise and industry knowledge. Provision of appreciated manpower resources, enhanced efficiency and efficiency. So this is the end of that. And the final this thing which I want to say is, in all these things, okay, in whatever we talked about, the first pre-trial judge is always the auditor, right? We have to do the job properly. We, the chartered accountants, have to do the job properly based on ethics. Why ethics? Because we are the first people to know about the internal matters of a company when the company's financial comes for us to get audited. People trust us. People trust us a lot. So nation should always come first, and the pre-trial judge being, we are a responsible chartered accountant, and the government has given us enough powers, and because of the professional ethics, we have to do our jobs perfectly to avoid such problems. Why I am telling you is, see, I told you the dirty dozen, 3,45,000 crores. This 3,45,000 crores, what will happen? again, our central government has to do recapitalization of the banks. Recapitalization of the banks means the money has to come from us only, because this money anyway it is going out. It is our own money which goes out, and the central government is burdened with the extra amount as capitalization, and we ourselves have to pay from it, from our pockets. So this is all about this. We have to do our job properly, and thanks to all people of Bangalore chapter of ICA for giving me an opportunity, Mr. Bojraj Shetty, and to the technical team for giving me support throughout this presentation. Thank you one and all. And if you have any doubts, you can either write to me. I will be pleased to answer any doubt, because it gives me a kick to answer the questions raised. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Rangnath, for a wonderful presentation, and all the frauds or the misdeeds happened since last couple of years in India. You have narrated one by one. So excellent narration of each and every fraud transactions, which requires the forensic audit. And so maybe one of my question is regarding forensic audit. Is there any tool or something the technical guys they use for that audit? How they extract the data from see, in many times what happens, this forensic audit, when they come for audit, majority of the cases the continuing the accountant or the person who was maintained the accounts not available. In such situation, maybe the full information they may not get. They might not get the full information. How exactly they have to go through, and what are the various sources available for them to get the required data?
It's very simple. What I used to do is, because in my company also, we used to have a huge data. Huge data means too much of data. Suppose if, according to your question, if there is no data, then first you have to see the available material or data which is there. Even if the person is not there, the papers will be there. First, you try to reconstruct the situation by entering those data into the system by using your people, or you yourself can do it. And once you enter this data into the system, then in any software you have this system where it can be exported to Excel. Actually, there are two systems. One is, as I told you earlier, one is a pivot table and another is crystal reports. Crystal reports I have not tried, but in Excel, the pivot table, you can extract and you can get any type of report you want. One simple example I will give you. We had more than 1,300 vehicles, and we wanted to know each vehicle is consuming how much diesel. So the report was coming from the plant, and then we got it written in Excel. This was in Excel, not in the system. It was written in Excel, and from the Excel, each individual vehicle number and what is that milometer, how much it was run, everything was picked. And then what we found out was, out of the 1,300 vehicles, almost 250 to 300 vehicles were double cabin pickups. And these drivers, they were working on their own during the weekends to make extra money. They were utilizing our vehicle, our diesel, to earn an extra money. Once it so happened that my chairman was coming from United States of America after having his vacation, and he landed in Dubai in the morning, 2 o'clock. And when he got into his car, there was a driver, of course. And when he just peeped out of the window of this BMW 7, he saw that two of our company pickups, double cabin pickups, they were passing by in Dubai. Actually, we are based in Abu Dhabi. So he immediately asked the asset manager. And asset manager was his own elder brother. He was asking, in Dubai, what my company cars are doing. So all these things we came to know, and we made a proper system so that we put a system like putting GPS on the vehicles with the geofencing so that they could not move. And all this data, we could store it in Excel. And from Excel, we could import to pivot table. And from pivot table, even date-wise, we were getting all the details about the operation of the vehicles, and absolute control was brought into this particular this thing. So like that, they say even Crystal Reports gives the report, but I have not tried that. Only pivot table I have tried, and I am very happy with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Divya, are you there? Hello, Divya?
Sir, I'm there, sir.
Yeah, please conclude the session.
So, dear members, I take this opportunity to propose formal vote of thanks for today's study circle. Wholehearted thanks to our speaker of today's program, C.A. Ranganath Achar. Thank you very much, sir, on behalf of entire managing committee
Thank you.
and also on
Thank
behalf
you.
of all the participants. Sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all the participants for active participation. Request all of you to kindly look into Bangalore branch website for the further programs.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, sir.
Happy New Year, Divya.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank
Happy
you.
New Year to all the participants. See
Thank
you
you.
in the next year,
Yeah, sir.
2022.
Yes, yes.
Last
more
session
days
of
to
the
go.
year is Ranganath's.
2 more days to go. 2 more days to go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening. Good night. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
Siganathan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good night.